And if I hadn't done that, God knows where I would be today. So I thank Georgia State for the opportunity, and I'm just one of tens of thousands of members of the same way. So go Panthers. Yeah. Yeah. I'd like to thank Barbara for putting up with me all these years. Maybe the business had something to do with it, but thanks for putting up with me and for all your support. And for my children, please, thank you for, not worrying about the missed birthdays and the parties and that type of thing. And Jerry, what can I say? The fact that 40 years, is it real? I mean, we can't be that old, can we? That's incredible. But, I tell you, thank God for partnerships. Thank God for his creative mind and his confidence and effort and the working relationship that we've had for years. It's been a wonderful partnership, and all partnerships should be that way. But truly, our proudest accomplishment is our people. Jerry talked about it. The video talked about it. Jim talked about it. But, you can't go wrong if you're dedicated to hiring people smarter than yourself and getting them to try and take your job. And we've done a magnificent job at that. We got, 30 nationalities that we have, 25 languages, a tremendous crew. We got a wonderful management team of Brad, John, and Evan, and the people are just incredible. But, I'd like to stop talking a little bit about the AJC and being here. I'd like to talk to the students a little bit. How many students do we have in the room tonight? Raise your hand. All right. This message is for you, all right? And it's for my grandchildren as well. How often do you get an opportunity to speak to your grandchildren in a mode like this, in a time like this? And I'm really looking forward to this. I've always thought it was my obligation to be all that I could be. I felt it was my obligation to myself and also to society. And when I looked about it a little bit and when I talked about my thoughts about being all I could be, three things came up to me as far as thinking about the most important things. One was being an adventurer in life, take Jerry's philosophy of just do it, and invest in relationships. And I'd like to explain those a little bit in more detail. What I mean by an adventurer in life is try new things. Jerry was absolutely right about ISAC. Be willing to take that foreign trip, learn that foreign language, test yourself, do something that's new. At the time that my grandchildren are now, push yourself to try something new. I'll give you an example of being an adventurer and having courage. About 20 years ago, we were doing business in Hong Kong. We had an office in Hong Kong, and Mike Wisniewski, who was our Far East sales manager, used to go over to the office. Mike would say, China's going to open up. Every time I go, I'm going to go to a new city. And he would do that. And I can remember him coming back and saying, they're eating a lot of chicken feet in China. Chicken paws. Now, for you, that's really funny, but for us, that's big business. But Mike came back and he said, I think there's a business here. And we said, sure enough, we think it is. And we turned around and we went to the suppliers and we said, we think there's a business here. How about putting this equipment in and selling us chicken paws? And they said, we don't think so. We said, well, how about if we pay for the equipment, put it in the plant, and we give you a contract to take all the chicken paws? They said, now you've got an idea. Well, it worked out beautifully, and I want to tell you, today that business of the chicken paws to China is a $500 million a year business. Not for us, but for the United States. And it's even more around the world. Now, that's the adventuresome part. Let me tell you the courage part of that story. Mike's a paraplegic. Mike's in a wheelchair. Mike went to China by himself. You don't have any problems. Be an adventurer in life and give it a shot. The other part of the story that I want to mention to you is embrace the new. New is important. Years ago, and I mean years ago, before most of you were born, I worked at Lockheed. And I worked with a young man that was moved in from Utah. And he said, I'm having real problems. I said, what's the problem? He said, my wife hates Georgia, hates Atlanta, said, hates Atlanta. How can anybody, I'm a native, how can anybody hate Atlanta? He said, she hates Atlanta because of the trees. I said, you've got to be crazy. The trees? What are you talking about? He said, well, she was from the Mesa area of Utah where there are no trees. And she just couldn't embrace the fact of all these trees. So I implore you students, my grandchildren, embrace the new. Don't be shut off by the old. Embrace the new, your life will be richer. As you saw in the video, we talked about just do it. And that's been our philosophy for a long time. You know, Jerry and I had that philosophy for a long time. He's the one that really kicked me in the butt about just do it. But really what it means is set a goal, just take a lot of action and just do it. And if that doesn't work, try it again and try it again and try it again until it works. We had an example of that in Puerto Rico. Well, this is probably in the 1970s. There was a longshoreman strike going to Puerto Rico on the East Coast. And what that meant basically were all the ports were shut down. Well, 30% of our business was to Puerto Rico, and that meant that we were going to have a significant reduction in revenue. And our competitors said, you know, how do we hunker down? How do we lay off people? What do we do? And Jerry and I said, let's try something different. We went to Miami, we started chartering planes and started flying product to Puerto Rico. Now, back in those days, and Richard Cope, I see you out there, you were right there in the middle of that, babe. It was an amazing situation. Back then, these guys were cowboys. They chartered airplanes. These guys owned their own planes, a DC-6, a DC-8, a 707. And the idea was if you were down there and you had the cash in the cargo, you were able to fly it. And Jerry and I were down there literally, and Rich Cope was there at the same time. We were literally carrying $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 around in a briefcase and booking airplanes. Today we'd be arrested as drug dealers. But you know what happened? The amazing thing about the just do it part of it was, at the end of the day, we had the 2 best months we ever had in the history of the company. Our customers were satisfied, and our competitors were hunkering down. So just do it. The last piece I want to mention to you is, and this is for all of us, is invest in relationships. And I use the word invest very seriously because it's an investment. Relationships are an investment. Invest in your spouse, invest in your partner, invest in your customers, suppliers, your people. It'll make a difference in your life. You know, why do we have 30 nationalities? Why do we have 25 languages? Why do we have 15 offices? Because we want to build a relationship with our customer so that we can listen to that customer and understand what he needs. It's been a great benefit to us in our life. So for you, my grandchildren, for our students, in summary, be an adventurer in life, just do it, and invest in a relationship, and you'll be successful, and you will be all that you can be. Thank you so much for this award.